Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Xplore's podcast. I'm Shuchi Soniya, student of XLRI GMP program 2026-27 batch. Joining me today is for this podcast is a very special guest, the managing director at Accenture Strategy and practice lead of AI strategy, Mr. Shantanu Singh. So, sir, a very warm welcome on behalf of XLRI and Xplore to this event, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Shruti.
So let's start with the first question. So you cover five very different industries under one strategy practice:
Yes.
retail, life, auto, industrial, etc. So is there a single judgment instinct that transfer across all five, or has the concept of good or the decision making changes across industries?
Sure. So what I've seen is, my home industry is consumer goods because I started my career with a consumer goods company doing sales and brands. That is the industry that I understand best, right? Like I can speak that industry's language. For other industries, including some that I used to lead, like life sciences, I have no experience in. But what continues to be relevant across pretty much every industry, or even when you're looking at new things like AI strategy, are the core consulting skills that we were taught around structured problem solving. And for example, when you look at a problem, the client will often come to you with a symptom. You've got to figure out what is the business context, what is the burning platform, what is the key question that you're going to be solving for, and then how do you break it down into its component parts so that that big hairy problem becomes easier to analyze, right? So those the skill of being able to look at a problem, break it down, make it easily analyzable, all of those skills apply irrespective of which industry or which problem statement you're looking at, which is why consultants often with no experience in a particular domain are still able to go in and be the problem solvers that they are expected to be. So I believe that just comes from getting the basics right, building your foundational consulting skills. And then as you work more and more in an industry or you work more and more in a domain, another thing about consulting is we're all expected to be very rapid learners, right? So the learning curve is tremendously steep in consulting. So when you go in, sometimes you may not know the industry, you may not know the market, you may not know the client company. So you just apply those raw consulting skills. But as you do it again and again, you build that domain knowledge as well, and then things get a bit easier.
Yeah, that's true. Even in whatever little experience that I have had, I've realized I think looking at the problem for long enough gives a tremendous amount and a part of the solution. That has been
Yeah.
a very good insight that I have even learned. Okay. So the second question goes as like consulting trains you to build the airtight data backed case. Was there a moment when your client rejected the correct analysis that you had? Something you couldn't fully justify with data and turns out they were right, and what happened after that?
So what typically happens, Shrishti, is especially when you're doing uh, strategy sort of work, right? Um, the data analysis and the insights that you get from the data are critically important, and they sort of point you in the right direction. But ultimately, when you start to formulate the strategy, more often than not, it doesn't all flow directly from the data or the analysis, right? You still need to make that leap of judgment. You do the data analysis so you can often figure out what not to do, right? But exactly what is the direction that you should take? What is the uh, where should you set your ambition, and how do you build out the roadmap to get to where you want to get to? Most often does not come from the data at all. It is more about getting all the insights from the data, imbibing all of those learnings, and then taking a bit of a. It is always a bit of a leap of faith to say, okay, out of all of the options that we've got now, and we've looked at all of these options, you need to place a bet, right? A strategy ultimately is a bet because it's not carved in stone. You never know that your strategy is 100% correct, right? But that is where you're saying, based on everything that I've learned from the data and the research and talking to people and interviews, discovery, etc. Now I feel confident enough to place my bet in that direction.
like a risk analysis.
Yes. So you do a lot of analysis, but at the end of it, a lot of it is about human to human conversations, discussions, thinking about, okay, now based on everything that I've seen, where should we place that bet, right? And what should we say that, okay, these are the things that we're going to be doing, and these are the things we're not going to be doing.
Okay. So, as you moved from doing analysis yourself to reviewing it to dozens of teams at once, so how did your judgment change in this entire journey, and how your recommendation went towards more sound or less sound, or what are the parameters that you now use when you started your journey from?
Sure, that's a good question. What I've learned over the years is both doing consulting and strategy consulting and everything, and also running my own startups, is as you get more experience and you start building that judgment, a lot of it is about being able to cut through the clutter. Often there is a lot of data, there is a lot of analysis, right? But the what that judgment and experience brings is to be able to make complex things simple. And and that is the difference that I've seen between, say, somebody who's young, who's fresh, who's an analyst, and maybe somebody who's a senior manager or a partner or a managing director. The journey often is from complexity to being able to make things very, very simple after having looked at all of the complex stuff. So the complexity is then hidden in the background, and it is the simple insight and the simple message that more experienced folks are able to cull out and deliver to the client. So, what happens in consulting at Accenture, and I'm sure at every other consulting firm as well, is that you will have very, very experienced senior partners who are going in for a CEO meeting, and the analysts and the consultant team will come and say, "Hey, we've done all of this analysis. We've created a 100-slide deck." Right? The partner will tell you, or the managing director will tell you, "I want one slide, and I just want one slide. Don't give me anything more than one slide, and that is all that I want to discuss with the CEO." And it is a very uh, it's a difficult job, and it takes judgment and experience to figure out what goes into that one slide from all the 100 slides that the team has created, right? So often the judgment is about what is the fluff and what is the core of the message that we need to deliver.
Yes, understanding. So we'll move on, but yeah, your point of decluttering really resonated, and I think that really adds on to the path. It is really all about decomplexifying or simplifying into smaller elements that get together to form the ultimate complex
Yep.
question. And actually, that lands directly into my next question. That when a client walks in with a 40-slide deck data and no clear recommendation, so, what's the actual gap that you diagnose? Whether it's a data problem, or is it an analysis problem, or is it actually a behavioral courage problem that you want to address? So, what is the analysis that you get when there is someone with an abundance of data right in front of you and still no clear recommendation about it?
This is valid because I've often seen um, some analysts and consultants struggling when there is just a ton of data available, right? And megabytes upon megabytes of Excel files with a lakh, rows of data and 1,000 columns and stuff, which often happens in consulting. I think it takes skill and maturity and judgment to be able to analyze the data and identify those key 2 or 3 insights, right, about what the data is telling you, because you can get lost in analysis paralysis. One good way to not get stuck in analysis paralysis is to frame hypotheses early on, right? To look at the problem, to look at the problem statement that you're trying to solve for, to break it down into its component parts, like we were discussing earlier, and then frame hypotheses, and then check the data, run the analysis only to check those hypotheses. right? So then it doesn't matter how big the data is, because I'm checking for something very specific. And if I've crafted my 5 or 10 hypotheses correctly, if I've broken down the problem, I've crafted my hypotheses, I know that if I run these 10 analyses to check each of these hypotheses, I will get the insights that I need. So it's about not starting with the data and then seeing, okay, what are the 1,000 types of analyses that I can run on the data, because then you'll get lost. It is to frame the hypotheses and then just run the analysis that you need to check to validate or negate the hypotheses. That's critical, and that is an approach that consultants learn to apply, because often in the real world, there's a lot of data. Sometimes there is you can always get as much data as you want, frankly. So it is about not boiling the ocean, as we like to call it, but being able to lay down those hypotheses and then just do the work that is required to be done. Most of the time you don't have days and weeks on end to keep doing analysis, right? You've got to quickly figure out what's to be done and move forward from there.
Exactly. And when we are actually dealing with that tremendous amount of data, it's very easy to get yourself here and there and create a whole world around the data without actually forgetting what the base analysis was to begin with.
Yeah.
And I've seen this in the journey that a lot of people actually do struggle with this.
Yeah, you're right.
That
You're
the
right.
data analysis itself gets so cluttered
Yep.
that where do you need to land gets mixed up.
Yep.
It's
And let me add another point there.
Yes.
Consultants are famous for jargon.
Yes.
And sometimes we start to believe our own these stereotypical consulting ways of talking and communicating with all of the jargon-filled language. You will not believe it, but in most consulting firms, I'm sure, in Accenture, and I'm sure all the other consulting firms as well, most of the time the senior people, the managing directors, the partners, the senior managers, we're always telling our teams, cut out the jargon. This is just, it doesn't mean anything, right? The job is not to impress. The job is to communicate with clarity, right? So often the analysts and the consultants, when they're young and they're learning things, they think that the more jargon you use, the client is going to get impressed, right? But it's a battle for us to keep saying, simplify it, make it clear. What are you trying to say, right? Say it with a lot of clarity, because that is where the impact comes.
Yes, I completely agree with
So
you.
I've seen that, as you kind of go up the ladder and you get that experience, the journey is from taking complex stuff and being able to filter it, refine it, and make it simple for people to understand, for people to take actions, for people to make decisions. I think that is a lot of the judgment and experience just builds up that muscle.
Yeah, because the context, I think, goes away as you go up and up, because won't be having so much details, but what lies with you is actually the strategy or the judgment towards it on a
Yep.
wider or
Yep.
less myopic lens.
Yep.
Yeah. So on to our next question, sir. Is there a piece of advice from a mentor or a senior leader of yours that reshaped how you made calls under pressure? Because with increasing amount of data and increasing amount of people and everything, something that you still catch yourself repeating even after these many years to your teams or someone.
Yeah. Oh boy, there are so many. Because I think all of us have. I certainly have been very fortunate to work with some legends, right? At Accenture in my early days when I joined as an analyst, and there are so many, but I'll tell you maybe about one of them. So there was this partner who used to lead what was called the products industry group at that time, and me having come from a consumer goods background, I used to work with him very closely, and I was on a lot of the clients that he was taking care of. One of those was a consumer goods company, and my first project when I came in as an analyst was to do the 5-year business plan for that company. I was the analyst in the team, and there were managers and senior managers, but it was a very strategic sort of a project. Right after that, we started doing a sales transformation project. And because I had been worked with a consumer goods company, been on the ground, done sales, all of that, we were pretty much left independently. So I'd made a consultant by then. So there were two consultants, and we were doing the whole sales strategy for that company. And frankly, we knew more about it because we'd been part of the industry than even our partner did, who was a pure thoroughbred consultant. But what I'd like to share is I specifically remember this one incident, and it would have been 20 years ago now, but it's just etched in my mind. We'd always be at the client site, right? Monday to Friday, we'd always be working out of the client's offices. Once in a while, you'd have the chance to go back to the Accenture office, maybe to file your reimbursements, expenses, and things like that. But it used to feel like coming home, right? Because once in 3 months, 6 months, you're going back to your company's office. So I remember this one particular day when I walked in, and this particular partner was sitting in his cabin, glass doors, and he saw me coming into the office, and he said, "Come here." I went into his cabin. I said, "Hi." His name was Anish. He's retired now. He was with Accenture for a while, then gone to Bain. Then now he's retired. So Anish said, "Okay, Shantanu, how are sales?" I said, "Anish, sales?" He said, "हाँ, कितना बिका? Sales ठीक है कि नहीं है?" I told him, "Anish, I'm building the sales strategy, right? I don't know abhi kitna sales hai." He said, "Shampoo kitna bika hai? Are we hitting the target this month or not?" I said, "I don't know. I'm building the sales strategy, right? I don't know this month's numbers." He said, "Shantanu, if you want to operate at that level, right, and if you want to build the strategy and work with the CEO, the first thing that you need to do is understand the Dhandha on the ground, right? Dhandha kya hai? Paisa kaise banta hai, right? Where does the money get spent? Where does the money get made, right? How is business being done on the ground? How many patties have you sold, right? So you have to understand the business from the basics and never lose sight of that, because it's only when you're grounded in that, right, can you actually do supposedly lofty things like strategy and everything else. Otherwise, if you're only playing at sort of that level, there is a big risk that you may lose the plot, and you often start believing that you're this great strategist who can, make frameworks out of thin air. What I learned coming back is to be very grounded and understand the business from the ground up. So even now, I often keep asking my analysts and consultants, "Ki client ka dhanda kya hai? Can you explain the business to me, right? Before you start to pretend that you can make recommendations to the client, right?" Often a good way to do that is, and nowadays we started using this trick in interviews as well, is let's say you're interviewing somebody who's worked in the consumer goods industry, right? A great question that I like to try out nowadays is, let's say you want to set up a consumer goods company from scratch. How will you do it, right? And that shows whether somebody understands the business from the ground up or not. So what I learned from Anish at that time, and what I try to teach my analysts and consultants, is to first get to the basics, to the foundations of the business, and never lose sight of just the basics of paisa kahan se aa raha hai, kahan ja raha hai, what is the real business, right? Before you start doing growth strategy and things like that.
Yes, I understand. And coming from the other side also, I was also fortunate enough to have a couple of such leaders who knew the exact working and the exact pipeline from end to end. And any conversation or a couple of conversations with them gives you insight and a POV from another direction.
Yep.
It's not about a deliverable of a month or a sprint or a year.
Yep.
It becomes business. It becomes business between two, and it's a very good POV.
Yep.
So I think what you said also applies in a way of team building and the way the others in your team perceive as well, the connection that actually matters. And I think
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great way to pass on the knowledge to
Yep.
the understanding, because I also met some people and I was impressed the way it went, and
Yep.
it went.
Yep.
Yeah.
And especially in consulting, because it is a people-driven business, right?
Yes.
And we work in small teams,
Yes.
and 3 months you're working in a team, and then that team dissolves, and then you're working with another team. So how people learn and how people build their skills and their experience and their judgment is completely just learning from the folks that they're working with.
Yes.
Which is why I think consultants are lucky as well, because
Yes.
I think across consulting firms, we get to work with really smart people.
Yes.
Most of the consulting firms have have a very high quality of talent in
Yes.
the team. And just being able to work with that level of talent and those quality of people is, you just end up just
Yes.
imbibing so much.
Definitely.
And often you learn from the analysts and the consultants
Yes.
as much as you do from the
Yes.
partners and the managing directors as well.
Yes, and it gets to, and I've seen that people who have worked on this track for a longer time, it almost comes intuitively to them.
Yep.
And it's very amazing to look at that and to understand that it is coming something which is actually in theory and in practice, it coming so intuitively to the person in front.
Yep.
So that's very nice. Okay, so on to our next question, sir. Is there with the generative AI and the data it's been producing, is there a discipline you personally use to decide what not to look at, given how much everything is present at just a click of a button now and just a touch?
Sure.
What not to focus on?
That's a great question. My mantra is that I'm a big proponent of AI. I evangelize AI a lot in my practice. It is my determination to make my practice an AI first practice. I want my practice to be more advanced in our usage of AI than every other practice within Accenture. Having said that, and I tell people that one of my mantras is #first try with AI, which means whatever you need to do, give it a shot with AI, right? And because when you keep doing that, you will develop that intuition and that judgment of what you can depend on AI for and what you should not. A key thing there is to always look at the output with a critical eye, right? The way I do it, if I can share with you, is I have two, call them AI assistants. I pretty much treat them as analysts in my team, right? One's obviously a GPT and one's Claude, and I've given them both names as well. So I treat them just as if they're analysts who work with me, and I tell them what to do, right, with the direction that I would normally pass on to a human analyst, and they do the work and they generate the output, and I look at it with a critical eye, right, because that the responsibility and the accountability of bringing that judgment lies with me. So I wouldn't say that there is something that I completely say I would not use AI for. My sort of thinking on this is I use AI for everything. Unless I can maybe do it faster than even the AI can, then I would not. But otherwise, I use AI for everything. But I always take the output with a bit of, I look at it with a critical eye, and I make sure that I apply that judgment. And sometimes the first draft is good enough. Very often it's not. So I need to then work again with either the GPT or the Claude to get it refined till I've got it to the level that I want it to be at. So I use it across, but I hardly ever take the first draft.
Yeah, it is a hassle. The process to get to, even with an assistant at your disposal, to get to where it is a hassle, definitely.
Yeah, but still, if I was the same thing, if I was passing on the work to one of my analysts, right, the turnaround time would be far higher.
Yes.
So here it is, even if I need to do 3 iterations with it, it is still much more rapid. And these AI analysts are available to me 24/7. Right? So anytime I want, I can pass on a job and I can quickly work with them to get stuff done.
Yes, understanding. Okay. Then you lead AI strategy specifically for product industries where physical constraints still exist alongside with the technological advancements that we have. So does AI change or at least affect, or how does it affect the judgment that goes on there? Because there are a lot of physical components that are affecting the entire workflow apart from the data and everything else, right?
Sure. A bit of a correction there. So roles have recently changed in Accenture, but even earlier, what you're referring to is I did not lead AI strategy for the products industries. I had two different hats. One was I led our AI strategy capability across everything, and I also led the practice for the products industries, which was consumer goods, life sciences, retail, automotive, industrials, etc. So they were two separate hats. It wasn't AI for this. But anyway, I think in any industry, be it consumer goods, retail, life sciences, or utilities, or healthcare, or pretty much any chemicals, any industry you can think of, I think what's critical is to figure out what are those parts of the value chain where you want to apply AI, right? And I'm talking about when we're working with clients to help them reinvent with AI, which a lot of companies are now doing. And I think it's a big part of the job that consultants are doing now and will continue to do in the near future as well. So what we figured is AI could be applicable in a whole lot of different things, but you've got to figure out where are the value pools where you want to invest money, because AI is not necessarily cheap, right? So you've got to very carefully identify where are the value pools where you should actually invest to deploy AI, and where you're going to get a good ROI, right? So it is not about applying AI for the client all over the place. You've got to be very careful to figure out, okay, this, out of these 50 options that are possible, these are the different parts of the value chain, or these are the processes, or these are the critical decision points where I will use AI to, and where I will get that significant uplift in the business metrics that matter, right? Where I will get that business benefit which justifies, or more than justifies, the investment that I have to make. So whether it's consumer goods or any of the products industries or any industry, I think it is a very critical thing that I guess all consultants are doing, where we're helping clients prioritize where their AI investments should go. Because otherwise, what's been happening. There's a lot of spend, the ROI is not showing up, etc. It's probably because you're not deploying the AI in the right points in your value chain.
So basically create a hierarchy and evaluate the weighted value chain.
Prioritize, figure out, okay, I'm only going to do it in 3 places. But these 3 places, I know if I get it right, these metrics are going to jump from where they are right now to where they need to be. And that's just going to unlock a ton of value for me.
Yes. Okay. And have you ever been in a situation or been with a client where the client has started outsourcing judgment to AI simply because it's faster and always available? And have you ever, and what did it cost to them in your opinion, do you think?
I haven't seen it with a client yet.
Yes.
I think a lot of the clients are still a little early in their AI adoption journey. But it varies. Right now, the level of adoption and the level of usage is not uniform, right? There are, in any team, in any pocket, be it a client organization or Accenture or any company like us, there are some people who are using it all the time for a lot of different things and have some level of expertise with it. And there are other people who are using it, but at a relatively not an advanced level. So what I can share is that I have had multiple instances where analysts and consultants have come to me and shown me a certain deliverable. And I know that this has just come out of Claude, right? There is no human intervention at all. And that's become very evident now. And frankly, you can lose credibility if you do that. There have been multiple times when you question a certain number and ask, okay, where has this number come from, right? And what you hear is, okay, I got this from Claude, or I got this from GPT. That clearly does not work. So what you've got to do is, again, apply that human AI, human sort of sandwich method framework, as I term it, where you set the direction, you give it the context, you give it the instructions, let the AI do the work, but then you hold accountability for applying that judgment and checking and validating is everything correct or not. There have been instances where we found that analysis done with AI is wrong, just mathematically wrong, right? So you need to make sure that you're fact checking, you're validating, and not just taking any AI output as the gospel truth.
Yes, and with AI being in such a nascent stage right now and everything running just havoc here and there across industries, I think the judgment is, and the formation of the judgment and people understanding that this judgment needs to be made.
Yeah.
It's actually very immensely
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. So, short message, I would say definitely use it.
Yes.
Use it for everything,
Yes.
but learn the right way of using it. Otherwise, it may end up doing you more harm than
Yes.
good.
And probably creating a direction which you don't know existed and creating
Yeah.
problems with it.
You can't outsource thinking to AI.
Yes.
Right? You have to. You can brainstorm with it. You can spar with it. You can get it to help you
Yes.
think. But the moment you start outsourcing thinking and judgment to the AI, that's trouble.
Yes. Even I was talking to one of my colleagues that if there was an AI open to 5 to 6 people and all of them gave them wrong data, the AI is completely useless. So because it has all the wrong data in it, it is not giving any judgment. So it's when you get to the niches and the zeros and ones of it, you realize how it is going and how nascent of a stage AI is in right now for the years it has to come in front. So that judgment is actually very important.
Yeah, it's already it's already pretty strong,
Yeah.
and it's only going to get stronger.
Yes.
But you have to build your muscle of figuring out how do I use it the right way.
Yes. Okay, moving on. So you run large teams delivering recommendations under real-time pressure. How do you train a junior consultant to develop the judgment rather than just getting better at producing more and more analysis?
Sure. I believe that judgment does take time.
Yes.
As we were discussing earlier, you develop that sense, that judgment when you're learning from other people over multiple projects, right? So I wouldn't be too worried if an analyst doesn't have that level of judgment on their first project, second project. What is important in the early days is to make sure that your core foundational consulting skills are correct, which means that you are able to look at a problem and break it down. You are able to frame hypotheses. You are able to conduct analysis that is required to validate or negate these hypotheses. Whatever insights you generate, you're able to communicate them in a simple, impactful, clear sort of message. So in the early days, I think those foundational consulting skills are important. Yesterday, we were doing the analysis on Excel, right? Before that, maybe people were doing analysis on paper, right? Today, our analysts and consultants will do analysis using Claude GPT, whatever that might be. But that core consulting approach of breaking down a problem and being able to adopt a very structured approach continues to be important. So as an analyst, I would say that is the key foundational skill that you need to be focused on. Judgment will come over a period of time. It will, as long as you're applying yourself, as long as you're working with good people, as long as you're exposing yourself to different types of problems and you're stepping out of your comfort zone, right, and trying out different types of problems, that judgment of what works, what doesn't work will definitely come by itself. Some of it you will get from your own experience. Some of it you will get from watching other people. So don't be too worried if the ask is not to be an analyst with a great judgment like a CEO or a CXO. That will come over time, which is focus on getting the basics right. So if you don't have the basics right, that judgment may not come at all.
That's right. Okay. So, so from 10 years from now, when even more of the analysis is automated, what do you think will be the single rarest and most valuable human skill left in strategy work?
That's a great question. And oh boy, nobody knows what's going to happen 3 years from now.
Yes.
10 years is a long time. I'm sure by then we'll have AGI and maybe ASI and artificial super intelligence and everything else. I think what will continue to be very important is really two things. One, judgment will continue to be very important. Judgment and taste, right, which comes from experience and everything. So being able to, by then, God knows, with larger models, AI would have developed great judgment and taste as well. That could just emerge as a new, emergent capability within the AI models. But assuming that that does not happen, I think just being able to look at all of these different um, data points and information and different recommendations made by lots of people, and just being able to judge and decide, that will continue to be very important. The other bit that will continue to be critically important and will probably become even more valuable is being able to build that relationship of being a trusted advisor with your client, right? So what tends to happen is that the relationship always evolves beyond a transactional sort of relationship where there is a client and you're a vendor or you're a consultant, right? Ultimately, it becomes a relationship between humans, between two humans, and you develop that trust, right? Where the CEO or your client can just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, what do you think about this? I need to brainstorm, right? Why don't you come over? Let's think about this and let's plan it out. Kya karna hai? Let's figure this out together." So that human connection continues to be important. And as the other things start getting more automated, I think the value of that will get even larger. So that trusted advisor relationship and the importance of that relationship is not going away.
Yes, definitely. Well said, sir. So we have last two questions left. So from where you sit hiring and working with talent across industries, how do you see the 1 year MBA program positioned in India today? Especially considering that this is the regular format that is considered outside in the US, etc.
Sure. I think it's a welcome change.
Yeah.
Maybe it started with ISP.
Yes.
I'm very glad that the other business schools are picking it up as well. And because, one, see, it's not that 2 years of business school completely transform a person. Frankly, what all of the schools do, whether it's IMs or Excel or FMS, MBI, any of the big ones, you get in great raw quality of talent, right? And then you apply that layer of knowledge and insights and everything. And frankly, you give them the network between the batch, right? They get the network that they carry forward. So it's already great raw material that you're taking in. You're putting them in the right environment, giving them the right knowledge, skills, and giving them the right network. And that is why somebody coming out of an XLRI is great, or somebody coming out of the IMs, etc., is very capable. So I would say, if you manage to reduce those 2 years to 1 year, and you're getting even better quality of talent, because the talent that you're getting into the 1 year program are typically people who've spent a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years working in the industry, so they have a much better grasp of what actually goes on, right? They've already started to develop some level of judgment of what works, what doesn't work. How do you navigate human relationships in a corporate environment, right? So the students who go through the 1 year program are already coming with that. So I would say that the raw material possibly is richer, right, in the 1 year program. And then you're giving them, given that they already come with some level of experience, 1 year is possibly enough to put them through that intense program and give them the functional domain skills that they need. For example, somebody coming in might not know finance. So you teach them finance, you teach them marketing, you teach them a little bit of strategy, but the raw material is already there. So for consulting firms, I think it is a great value proposition for us to get people from the 1 year program, because you get people who already have that industry experience and then have that business have gone through that business education as well. So the practices that I currently run are all industry focused practices, right? And I love to hire people who have worked in that industry before their MBA days and then have done their MBA as well and are now coming on board. They're probably much more valuable than somebody who's fresh and just done a 2 year MBA. So more power to the 1 year program for sure.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Also, sir, you are an XLRI alum, and you have come back, and so much welcome and so much warm welcome to you for this and doing. Thank you so much for doing this. Would you like to share anything from either from your college days or from your days from here, as well as from the learnings that you have had in the industry for so long? For the shaping and the building of the leaders that we are trying so hard to be, all of us. We are a batch of 118 students here in the GMP program, and the entire Excel is very well connected through alumni network, as you know.
Yep.
So, any message that you want to tell about anything that your heart goes out for is
Sure.
welcome here.
I would say, looking back at my own years here, um, there are, I think there are two things of great value that you get in a place like XLRI. One, one, the raw skills that you pick up from the professors, from your batchmates, from your classmates. And I'm sure it happens even more in the 1 year program because all of your classmates are coming with experience, right? So there is much more richer peer to peer sharing and learning that can happen. So you should use that time and very productively, because often you will not get that time again to be able to just devote yourself to learning, right? So use that time very productively. I'm not saying you should not have fun, you should have a lot of fun, but make sure that you're picking up the right skills as well. And the second valuable thing is the network. uh, I think we're all privileged to be in an institution like XLRI. The network that a place like this gives you stays with you your whole life, right? And thank God for WhatsApp, because it's become so easy to stay connected. So every batch has their own WhatsApp group, and we keep sharing stories, and often we connect. I was having dinner with some of my XLRI batchmates just the other day. So build those friendships, because those friendships will stay with you very, very long, and they will become some of your best friends and people who will support each other through the your career journey, because there will be ups, there will be downs, right? Naturally, but your XLRI gang, your XLRI batch, your XLRI network will be with you.
So that's amazing, sir. It's very nice. Any insightful, any recommendation or anything
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
can provide?
Yes. So I would say these are very, very interesting times because things are changing so fast.
Yes.
In every industry, pretty much every industry is getting impacted by AI. Some of them are getting radically disrupted. Some of them maybe not getting disrupted, but there are dramatic changes that are happening. It's just changing how you do things. It's also changing what you do, how do you extract the value, right? So I think it is a great time to be alive. It is a great time to start your career or refresh your career post your MBA. As I was saying earlier as well, we are looking, or people in the companies are looking at the fresh talent that's coming in to be some of the vanguards of AI adoption and AI usage, and bring that knowledge and raw enthusiasm and experimentation in, right? So I would strongly advise every student to try and play right at the very cutting edge of AI. You need to do two things. One, you need to stay updated about what's going on. Even now, despite our busy days, I spend at least 30 minutes to an hour every day just listening to AI podcasts on YouTube, or getting news on X to stay updated about what's going on in AI. And second, as there are new tools, new models coming out, try them. Right? Get your hands dirty, actually experiment with them, and build your judgment and intuition of how do you use it to the best benefit. Uh, build on Claude code, right? Create new apps, try new things, experiment, and then bring that knowledge into the companies and bring that enthusiasm and vitality into the companies because, frankly, we're all desperate for it. We're looking forward to the youngsters coming in and helping us all become AI native sort of companies from the ground up.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for doing this. On behalf of Explore, on behalf of XLRI, thank you so much for coming here and hope you had a good time. Hope you
I,
had a good time.
I did. Thank you so much for having me. I am delighted to be back. I hope to keep coming back more frequently from now on.
Yes, sir. Please welcome back and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank